Hello, and welcome to Mean Street News. Mean Street News is here to provide accurate news to help citizens affect change in their local government and beyond. Being nice is overrated. It is time to be real. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. The time to step up and step in is now. So please come join me, Katie, over on Mean Street News to discuss Ohio politics and beyond. I hope to see you there. Hello, and welcome to Mean Street News. Mean Street News is here to provide accurate news to help citizens affect change in their local government and beyond. Being nice is overrated. It is time to be real. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. The time to step up and step in is now. So please come join me, Katie, over on Mean Street News to discuss Ohio politics and beyond. I hope to see you there. Hello. I'm going to hear myself. Hello, and welcome to Mean Street News. I am Katie. If you're first time here, thank you for joining me. And if you've been here before, thank you for returning. Today, we are going to be getting into what I discussed last episode, which was the EPA new permitting process that they are proposing to lower the water quality standards in Ohio to allow data centers to discharge specifically into Lake Erie. And that's where the focus is going to be. It's going to be in other waters as well, but a lot of those are protected under the statute. But this permit specifically is leaving out Lake Erie, and I feel like that is for a reason, even though they're technically not allowed to degrade quality waters. So, but let's get into it. So this first started happening October 2025. The EPA introduced a new permit, and the new permit, the first two paragraphs, which is what kind of concerned me. I'm going to pull it up here. It says the Environmental Protection Agency general permit authorization for discharge from data center facilities under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Okay. So this is where the concern is. The director of the EPA said it has been determined that the lowering of water quality of various waters of the state associated with granting coverage under this permit is necessary to accommodate important social and economic development in the state of Ohio. And then this is what they're using to do it, which is why it's yellow. Provision D1J of the Anti-Degradation Rule 3745-1-05 of the Ohio Administrative Code was applied to this application, which means this is the rule that they are trying to use in order to allow them to create this new permit. And it's not streamlining an old permit. This is creating a new permit. I want to be very clear about that because that's the issue. This provision excludes the need for submittal and subsequent review of technical alternatives and social and economic issues related to the degradation. Okay. Now that's important. So basically she's saying, the director of the EPA is saying, me as the director of the EPA is using this rule 3745-1-05 section D1J of the anti-degradation rule to streamline this process and not have to now give us technical alternatives or inform the public of social and economic issues related to the types of discharges they want to approve. Now, what I did for all of you is I read the 37 pages. I already had read it before, but I dissected it. I also went through the entire 3745-01-05 rule. I also went through chapter 6111 of the Ohio Revised Code. I also went through all of the little chapter 119 that agencies allowed to make rules. I went through, I couldn't even tell you the amount of statutes and Ohio Revised Code that I went through in regards to this. It was crazy, which is why it's taken me a little bit to put it all together. It was really confusing, and I really didn't want to know that much about water up until now. So we're going to get in to the problems here. But first, I need to explain that there is already a permitting process, okay? In order for data centers right now under Ohio law, under ORC 61, chapter 6111, the Ohio EPA is mandated by that and by the federal EPA to use a permitting process for data centers to discharge water into our waterways. Now, there's different classifications of waterways. Some are more protected than others, Lake Erie being one of them. But there are two permits right now that data centers would have to pull, and I'm going to pull this up here. The first type of permit that they would have to pull up, might be eligible for, is an individual NPDES permit. Okay, now the NPDES permit is the National Pollutant Degradation. I believe it's degradation. Hold on, I want to get the language right. Degradation. Okay, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. So under current statute, the EPA is supposed to follow this permitting process, okay? Now, the red is the state's part, the blue is the federal government's part, okay? So what they're trying to streamline is the lower portion here where it says general NPDES permit process. This is what they're trying to streamline. And what it's really easy after, you get down to the technicalities of it. What the Ohio EPA is trying to do is they are trying to do this. Okay. They are trying to get rid of the general NPDES permit process through the federal. Through federal means that they're mandated to do under the National Quality Water Act. They're mandated to do under a statute federally with their rules, and they're required by the state of Ohio to do so. So what they're doing, that's why I put an X right here under the general NPDES permit process, is they're trying to eliminate the federal government's role here and streamline it to where now the data centers would come to the state of Ohio. They would create an EBIS account, okay, which is new. Instead of using the stream system that they're required to use under Ohio law, which is under the federal government, they would create an Ohio EBIS account. Then their application would be applied to under the new rules that they created under this new permit process, which I'll show you in a minute. It's called a notice of intent. That would then be they would fill out that form, okay? Then it would go for a review process to the director of the EPA. And then it would, the EPA, the EP director, if they decided that would be allowable, would then issue the permit. This is the new proposed process. They want to get rid of the general NPDES permit process initially. Now, what I find really interesting here with this, and I have to share my screen for this one. 2 seconds. I want to show you the permit. Now, there's a couple issues regarding this. There's a few. Okay, let me pull up that's the flow chart. I don't want that. Give me 2 seconds. I'm pulling up the draft EPA. Here we go. Okay, so here is what they want to do. Come on, load for me. My computer's not liking me right now. Okay, so here's their permit, right? So as I showed you on this chart, is that they want to bypass the general NPDES process. And I have to go down. Give me 2 seconds. And it's not loading as quickly as I want it to. Okay, so submittal of the notice of intent. So instead of going through the streams system, which is what the federal government, which they're regulated to do right now, they want to do a notice of intent, which they would submit. A submission would be through the EPA, Ohio EPA e-business center, okay, e-biz, which is what I was telling you. And they would do the process through that. And they go through all the regulations here for this, for their system. I'm trying to find something to say. Why won't this load? I swear to God, something doesn't mess with me while I'm doing this. Okay. So they're rewriting. So right now, the general NPDES system already has through the federal government the rule, all of these regulations that they have to abide by. Okay. What they're doing here, the Ohio EPA, is they're rewriting that under their new notice of intent. And here's I'm not going to go through all this, but here's the contents for that, and then how they would submit it. Okay. But the problem here, again, is that there is already, they already have to go through for the general, I'm not talking about the individual one, I'm talking about the general NPDES process. They have to go through the federal government, and they have to go through the federal EPA because of the Clean Water Act and this, that, and other thing. Now, and here's the application. I just want to show you that there is an application that they are to be going through, which is, here's the federal government's application that's on the Ohio Department of EPA's website that they are now trying to streamline. Now, there's been claims that this is not a new process, but they're just trying to streamline the NPDES process, and that they would be required to follow the NPDES regulations still. And that's not true. And because if it was true, then they wouldn't be, I gotta pull, they wouldn't be saying in their draft statement, I have a picture here for you that's a little better than what I'm going to give you. And then going through that whole document. Oh, that's not it. PDS permit. PDS. Come on, what did I do with that? I hate when I do this. Oh, here you go. So under the draft that they're proposing, they said this is not a new process. We're just trying to streamline the general permitting process for that we already have to abide by. But that's not true, because it even says right here that the director may require any person authorized by this firm to apply for, obtain either individual permit for the NPDES, and this is the language right here, or an alternative NPDES general permit. Well, it's not an alternative NPDES general permit. It would be the one that they're supposed to abide by anyways. Okay. That in itself, in a nutshell, is the problem here, is that they are already by statute required to follow the NPDES permitting process. Okay. But what Ohio is trying to do is say, we're not going to follow the Federal Clean Water Act. We are going to streamline this process to allow for social and economic benefits to Ohio, which I don't really understand. We're not going to follow Ohio law and follow this general permitting process. And it's because of this rule 3705 01-05 section D1J. So then we as people have to pull up what section 3705 D1J states, right? That would make sense. What does that say? What does that rule state? And I'm going to pull it up here for you because you need to see it. Okay. So rule 3745-1, and this is the reason the Ohio EPA director is saying we don't have to explain to the public what we're doing because of this one sentence in a 45-page administrative code, and that's sufficient, which it's not. Okay. So if they had to abide by the actual general NPDES permitting process, they would have to abide by sections B and section C of this anti-degradation process that I'm showing you right now, okay? Which is important because in section B, it defines, quality waters, superior high quality waters, what they're supposed to do, what that they're supposed to, if they want to lower the water quality standards of the state, they have to then bring in the national, not the national, the EPA, and then they have to bring in two other agencies, which is the wildlife protection, and there's one more, I can't think of it, wildlife protection and somebody else, to get their feedback on what would these discharges potentially do to the quality of our water. They also, under section C of this, would have to follow, and I read all this. We're not going to do that and go through all this for you guys. You can go to my article. It's all sourced, clickety clack, and you guys can read all of this. But it took me a while to put it all together, but section B is, applicate responsibilities of the applicant. Okay. So if they were following the Clean Water Act of the actual EPA, not the state, but the actual EPA that they're required to, which requires them to pull a national pollutant discharge elimination system permit. Okay. Then they would have to follow these rules. But the shady, and then under section C, and these are all the rules, okay? And then under section C of this, it says what the director of the EPA would then be responsible for doing to the public, which is informing us as the public why and how and the cost, the cost of polluting, the cost of this, the cost of that, to allow discharges to be put into our waterways here in Ohio. Now, they don't want to do that. So what they did is, if they use section D of this rule, they feel that they are, and see, except as provided in paragraphs B, 2, and D of this rule, the director shall provide public participation and government coordination prior to taking action on activities covered by paragraph B1 of this rule, which is the NPDES permitting process. Okay. And what they're saying is, and this is important because it basically is outlining what the director needs to be doing, and what the biggest importance of section C is. The director, if the director wants to lower the water quality standards of the state, she has to, inform the public of these, and I'm going to read these real quick. When making interpretation regarding proposed activities that lower water quality, the director shall consider the following, okay? And needs to provide to the public the following. That's part of it. Is the magnitude of the proposed lower water quality, the anticipated impact that it would have on aquatic life, wildlife, including threatened endangered species, important commercial recreation sport fish species, other individual species, overall aquatic community structure and function, the anticipated impact of the proposed lowering of water quality on human health and overall quality and value of the water resource, The degree to which the water quality may be lowered in waters located with the national, state, local parks, preserves, or wildlife areas. Water listed in the state resource water rules 3708 and then 374530 of the Administrative Code, or waters categorized by national resource waters, which is Lake Erie, by the way. And this is important why I keep saying Lake Erie. Outstanding state waters are superior high quality waters. The effects of the lower water quality of the economic value of the water body for recreation, tourism, and other commercial activities. I know I'm reading fast, but I'm just trying to get through this. Aesthetics or other use and enjoyment by humans. The extent to which the resource or characteristics adversely impacted by the lower water quality are unique or rare within the locality or state. The cost of the cost of the water pollution controls associated with the proposed activity, the cost effectiveness and technical feasibility of the non-degradation alternatives, okay? Which means, in the schmancy terms, this means that the data centers have to provide under the NPDES now and to the EPA now and the Ohio EPA, they already have to provide, other options. Like, what's the cost of polluting our waters versus the cost to the data centers to create a system, like, I don't know, reusing, do a basin and, reuse the basin water to recool your like a self-sustained system, okay? Versus, taking these and then dumping the water back into their basin versus dumping the water into our lake. Because it's the lake that they're after. It's Lake Erie that they're after. Okay, I state the cost of the water pollution controls associated with the proposed activity, the cost effectiveness and technical feasibility of non-degradation alternatives, or I said that, minimal degradation alternatives or mitigative technique alternatives, and affluent reduction benefits and water quality benefits associated with such alternatives. The availability, cost effectiveness, and technical feasibility of central regional sewage collection treatment facilities include long-range plans outlined in the state or the local water quality management planning documents and applicable facility planning documents. The availability, reliability, and cost effectiveness of any non-degradation alternative, minimal degradation alternative, or mitigative technique. The reliability and preferred alternative, including but not limited to the possibility of recurring operational and maintenance difficulties that would lead to increased degradation. So the cost of what this, lowering quality would be, the condition of the local economy, the numbers and types of new and indirect jobs that these centers would create, which are not many people. They don't need a lot of people for data centers. I think one of the big ones is like 100 people max. State and local tax revenue to be generated, and other economic and social factors as the director deems appropriate. Now, I'm going to stop real quick. The state and local tax revenues. We now in Ohio give tax credits to data center companies. I think it was 100 million for 26, 27, 100 million in tax credits, I think is being proposed. I believe it's that. So not only are we allowing these data centers to use our resources and our natural resources and not much benefit to the actual local community to have these, except to have these data centers, be opened. We now, as the state, are giving them all tax credits to do so. So legislators that are saying like, this is not my issue, this is a local issue. No. The state of Ohio is incentivizing them to come and do business here, and data centers specifically. So that is a legislator issue. And I, for one, don't want to be giving tax credits to data centers. Just doesn't make sense to me. Then the director would also have to be any other information regarding the proposed activities of the affected water body that the director deems appropriate. Okay. But she's saying, I don't have to listen to any of this stuff. Okay. I don't have to listen to any of this stuff because Section D of this, exclusions and waivers. Okay. Section D, Section 1, we got to read it. Exclusion waivers. Section 1, the following situations are excluded for submittal and review requirements listed in paragraphs B3E, B3H, and C5 of this rule, which is the cleanup, the NPDES process, the whatever. Okay. In determining, I'm not going to go through that with you guys because you guys don't want to see all the nonsense. You guys can play puzzle piece like I did if you want to. In determining the applicability of the following exclusions, the evaluation shall not only consider potential effects or impacts to the receiving waters, but also to any subsequent waters potentially affected by the discharge or activity. Okay. So this is D1. So she said D1. Now we got to go to J. Now, why does the director think she can lower the water quality standards, right? Let's go to J. This is what I love doing. Any general permit developed by the director in accordance and provisions with Chapter 374538 of the Administrative Code. Okay. So she thinks she can do it because this chapter gives her, the right to do it, right? All right. Let's see if that's actually true, though. Right? What is this 374538? Oh, wait. It's the actual NPDES general permits that they're required to follow. So wait, make it make sense. Okay. Let's make it make sense. We got to bring this up. Let's make it make sense. Let's put it together now. Okay. So the Ohio director of the EPA has decided that we need to lower the water quality, not giving the public any really information, like expounding upon, why we have to lower the quality, except that it is important for social and economic development in the state of Ohio. Under this provision, we just went over D1J of the anti-degradation rule, right? But under D1J of the anti-degradation rule, they have to abide by this process. Come on. This process. This is what they have to do under the rule that she claimed, which would then make them responsible. Okay. This is real quick. It would then make them responsible for following. Sorry. I'm trying to click quick. For following all of these rules. Section A, B, C of this rule. Okay. Which would then make them follow this permitting process. But she's saying that they don't. But the what they're quoting for lowering our quality of water standards says that they have to follow this process. What the Ohio EPA is doing with this proposed new permit is they want to do this process, which they're not allowed to do under their own statute. Because the biggest part of all of this is this process, this new proposed process, would not allow public input, other agency input. Now, this is my other issue. Of course, I got many. This is my other issue, which is it's not true. Okay. This is not true. They're not allowed to do this. They're not allowed to lower the quality of water because of this rule. And if the director wants to lower the quality of water, she has to abide by sections B and section C of the same rule 3745-1-05. But what Shady Ohio is trying to do, and this is not surprising at all for Ohio, because we are like the epicenter of public corruption. We really are. Nothing gets done about it, which is even more frustrating, is they're trying to use one sentence to be like, yeah, we don't have to follow this new. I can make new rules. I'm allowed to make new rules for my agency, and nobody oversees my new rules, which is not true. I can do this because I feel like it. Now, my other biggest concern with this is not only just that rule, which she's not allowed to do. She's not allowed to do it. Okay, this permit shouldn't even be a thing. This permit is redundant. Is now they're rewriting the rules with this new permit process that they're proposing. They're saying now, and this is the biggest part, is with this new, hold on, gotta open the permit. With this new rule, Lake Erie is not a quality water. Huh? They're trying to violate under, what do you mean, Katie? Well, right now, Lake Erie, there's standards under Lake Erie. Lake Erie is under rules 3745-1, Lake Erie standards. Lake Erie is designated exceptionally warm water habitat, superior high quality water, public water supply, agricultural water supply, industrial water supply, and bathing waters. Okay. So, because of all of those things I just listed, especially the superior high quality water, they are then again supposed to follow the Ohio EPA is supposed to follow the guidelines of the NPDES general permitting process as it is. But under this new permit, little little shady, you know what I mean? A little shady than this new permit, which I'm about to pull up right here. It's page 3, so I don't have to wait for it to load too long. Under this new permitting process, Lake Erie is excluded and not listed as a high quality water. So here comes why this is loading. Here comes my next question. Okay. Is who the hell? So we're running the limitations of coverage, right? Because the Ohio Director of EPA and Ohio EPA is supposed to follow these guidelines, right? But we're going to go to section E. With the exceptions of the existing discharge, any discharge outstanding state waters, superior high quality waters, category 3 wetlands, or outstanding national resource waters, Lake Erie is a superior high quality water, Lake Erie is a national resource water under Ohio law, not only just the administrative code, but under chapter 6111. Okay. Other than Lake Erie, as defined by and identified in Rule 3745-1-05 Ohio Administrative Code on direct tributaries to these waters within 2 stream miles of these waters. So they're saying the waters that are excluded are all the ones that are protected under 3745-01-05 that the director would then have to follow 3745-01-05 or -05, whatever I'm not going to keep repeating it. Yeah, -1-05, except other than Lake Erie. And then here's the question. Who gave the Ohio director of the EPA the authority to reclassify Lake Erie to allow for a permit? I don't care if you want to say that Lake Erie is not excluded. I could say that none of them are excluded. Wetlands aren't excluded either. But under the law, they're included. And the law was written by the Ohio legislators, which then makes the agencies write rules, which is the Ohio Administrative Code. But the Ohio director of the EPA cannot put in a permitting process that all the other waters that are high quality waters, national waters that are wetlands have to follow the now NPDES general permitting process. But she's allowed to say now Lake Erie is all of a sudden not included? Who gave her that authority? No one. And it's in violation of Ohio law. Oh, Great Lake Erie is a quality water. It is a national water. It is a industrial water. That's the water. So I again went through the list, right? So they're not allowed to exclude Lake Erie in this new, because it's new. It's a new permit that they're trying to create. It's not a streamlining an old permit. It's a new permit. Nor does she have the authority to rewrite Ohio law. And then she's using the rule 3705-01, section D, 1J of 37 of the same to say that we don't have to explain why the lowering the water quality is needed or the effects of it, which is untrue because that says they have to follow this process. Do you get what I'm saying here? I know it's like everywhere, but basically this new permit would get rid of the NPDES general permitting process and allow them to just streamline it through the state of Ohio. That's not legal. It's also allowing the director of the Ohio EPA to basically disregard Ohio law, reclassify waters in Ohio, which she's not allowed to do, and basically make it easier for data centers to discharge into Lake Erie. Now, why do I have issues with the types of discharges that they're going to do? They said, it's not a big deal. It's just for their heating and cooling systems, right? It's not a big deal. It's just we just want to discharge water. Hold on, I'm going to say, we're going to go to for 3 reasons. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. So these are the reasons that they want to allow the discharge, okay? They want to discharge these kind of waters. Once through cooling water, recirculated cooling water, and then discharge recirculated cooling water, which is water that's passed through cooling systems for the purpose of removing unwanted heat and then recycled back through the cooling system for reuse. The discharge may result from a variety of heat transfer system designed to remove unwanted heat as a result of industrial activities. Low volume wastewater discharges to waters of the state, including but not limited to cooling tower, blow down, boilers, block down, and air compressor condensate. And then they're also redefining what that is in this permit, which is, once again, established under law. Stormwaters associated with industrial activities, including but not limited to generators, fuel, and chemical storage tanks, outdoor equipment storage, and material loading and unloading areas. Well, the chemical ones got me a little, rare. But water passed through a cooling system to remove unwanted heat would then make the waters warmer. And then we're going to take that warm water and we're going to discharge it into the lake. That's problematic. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to increase water. What's that going to do to the wildlife? What's going to do to the quality of water in the lake? And then we don't even know how much. And then you're taking away the process you're supposed to follow under law in order to do so. Because look at, again, limitations on coverage to do this. A discharge is subject to an existing NPDES individual permit with a final effluent limitation parameter. Okay. But it's not just, this is where she's wrong. Again, high quality waters are subject to this process. Come on. This thing hates me sometimes. Are subject to this process, not just the individual NPDES permit process, but the general one. And what Ohio is trying to do to help these data centers, pollute our waters, is this process, which is not allowed under Ohio law. They have to follow, because of the federal Clean Water Act, they have to follow the general NPDES permit process. And that's my argument. It really is as simple as that. Is that this whole process is redundant. They're trying to rewrite law, already existing law. Because this process requires you go straight to the federal government. Because think about it, red is Ohio, and then it goes to the federal government for the individual. But this one is a federal application. It goes straight to the federal government. And then now when I say federal government, I mean federal EPA, because of the Clean Water Act, because of all these statutes. Now they're just trying to go straight through the Ohio director of the EPA with no oversight, because that there's no oversight, because that general permitting process is supposed to be informed, and public is supposed to be posted on the website of who and what and where and why they're trying to do discharges. And under this new statute, the director of the EPA just wants the director of the EPA to keep the list of people that are discharging into our lakes. It actually negates the entire website that they're supposed to be using. But regardless of what this 30 some odd page permitting whatever is requiring, they're not allowed to do it. The agency can't rewrite existing law. The agency cannot reclassify quality waters. The agency cannot push out the public input. And one person of the entire state should not be allowed to decide who and when and what can discharge into our quality waters and Lake Erie. Water that is drinking water, that is recreational water, that is protected wildlife's in there. And though that water goes back into our wetlands, that water goes back into our streams, that water goes back into, and it's really, this new permitting process is like a self-reporting tool. Now, if you get caught, then you actually have to follow the guidelines that are regulated under the Clean Water Act. What? My last issue with this, so I'm not going to overcomplicate this for you guys. My last issue with this is the director is claiming that it is socially and economically beneficial for development in the state of Ohio. Yet we've been given no reason. Why? Who does it socially and economically benefit? Not us. And they can sit here and say, "Oh, it's for AI. We need to have build all these for AI." That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I've also heard from a couple reps that were doing this because of Donald Trump's executive orders. I don't care what Donald Trump says the federal government has to say about what the state of Ohio allows the state of Ohio to do. What? That's not how government control works. It's not the federal, state, and local. It's the local, state, and federal. Flip that triangle right upside down. That's how our control works. The federal government doesn't tell the state of Ohio what to do with its waters. Well, actually, it kind of does, but it protects them. The EPA, the federal EPA protects our, with the Clean Water Act, protects our waters and creates this NPDES process that they're trying to. They haven't given us a reason. What social and economic benefits? What's the cost? How many jobs? How many? Nothing. Just decided we're going to lower the quality of water because of one sentence that says I actually have to follow the NPDES permitting process that I'm trying to negate completely. That's really how simple it is. So what do we do? Right? What do we do? Well, for one, I urge you to go on my website, pull up the article, regarding, and I'll tag it down here, but pull up the article regarding the EPA mandates, right? And if you go if you go to the bottom of the article, there is a link to, I'm going to show you, which is why I'm pausing right here because everything's being slow right now because my thing hates my life. All right, share this. Oh, of course it paused on me like that. Okay. And go to the bottom of the article, all the way down here, okay? And this is the link right here. If you click right there, it'll take you straight to the EPA website, okay, to put a public comment in. Okay, so here's a public comment. Answer your comment here. I mean, if you want to write a big dissertation, write a big dissertation. If you want to just say, I don't agree with this because you're trying to bypass the permitting process that's already established under law. You know what I mean? Do it, say whatever you want, but I urge you before the 16th of January to go on there and write to the EPA and tell them that they're not allowed to reclassify Lake Erie as a non-quality water to allow discharge in it. And under that class, they have to follow the National Pollutant Elimination permitting process. Okay, they're not allowed to rewrite their own rule to obfuscate federal and state law. Okay. I also urge you guys, and this is why I bring up JCAR, I also urge you guys to reach out to JCAR. Now, why do I say JCAR? Is because if this agency wants to rewrite its rules, okay, if this agency wants to rewrite its rules, an agency can't just do that, or even administrative code. The agencies can't just do that. There's oversight, and the oversight is JCAR. But I'm going to add to that article here in a little bit is I also want you all to get in touch with every state representative you possibly can, because at the end of the day, the governor and the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate members are responsible for oversight of the EPA and the EPA director. And under Chapter 119 are responsible for oversight of the EPA. And if the EPA is violating existing Ohio law, i.e. the reclassification of Lake Erie, i.e. as a quality water and a national water, i.e. the NPDES permitting process they're already supposed to follow. You can't create a new permit to obfuscate the one unless you guys do something wrong, and then you actually have to follow the actual rules. It doesn't make any sense. And tell them to follow the legislature need to tell, the Environmental Protection Agency to follow their own rules, and that this new permit is redundant. Do not pass it. Do not allow it. And they can't pass it legally without oversight. That's another thing with the House and Senate members. And they might be trying to sell it as like, we're just trying to streamline this process. No, they're trying to obfuscate the process. Because if they were actually following the law, okay. Stop the screen. They would be required to follow this process. But instead, they are trying to do this, which would obfuscate the federal EPA completely. Unless, now this is their unless these data center companies or these data companies don't follow the rules outlined or don't report correctly, then those agencies would be required to follow the general NPDES process and the NPDES process under their own new permit language, which means the process is there to begin with. And I also want, the state legislators to ask them who gave the director of the EPA the authority to reclassify Lake Erie as a non-quality water that they don't have to follow the NPDES process to discharge into. No one. I can answer that. No one. And she can't rewrite the law. No government agency can rewrite the law. The legislators have to legislate. They create the ORC, and it's not even law, it's statute. They create the statute. The statute then is taken by the agency, and they create an administrative rule or administrative code to follow that legislation that was given down by the General Assembly. So they are very much responsible here to oversee the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, JCAR is also responsible if the agency is trying to rewrite the administrative code to not follow the rules. If they want to rewrite the 3745-01-38, that doesn't make them follow the NPDES process, that's fine. But then they're in violation of the Clean Water Act, which they've agreed with the federal government to abide by. I'm gonna leave you guys with this here. It's really as easy as that. It looks really complicated. You start clicking, you start reading, you start going crazy, but it's really as easy as that. It's that easy. They're trying to eliminate a process that they're not allowed to eliminate under law, to pollute our water. And I don't care what the federal government wants to do with data centers. Don't data center my Ohio up. Like, let's not 1960s our Great Lake for the benefit of data companies. And there's other issues that people have when it comes to data centers. It's not just the pollution, but it's the energy. And there's an article that Meta is having TerraPower, which is, by the way, a Bill Gates company, do nuclear power to power that. But that's going to take time. You know what I mean? And just FYI, it's a Bill Gates company. It's in Ohio. It's in Piketon, I believe. For the benefit of who? Who do data centers benefit? It's not just AI. Okay. And this is what I want really people, this is where I'm leaving with you. I really want you guys to get thinking. It's not just AI. What is the point of all of this data center boom, right? Well, I can tell you it is, and I figured this out when I was going through all the ESSER funding and the COVID funding and all of this, trying to figure out what they were doing with the kids' data and why and how, and all the new rules that they rolled out during COVID. It's the framework for the digital dystopia that the technocrats want to come. It's digital control. And they're doing it based on what's called social. If you're a nurse, you probably know this is the social determinants of health. Okay. That's what they did it through the school with. And that's kind of how I figured out what they need to do with why they need these data centers in order to perpetuate their need for control. Okay. And we're going to share this, and then I'm going to pop off here. So when you think data centers, don't just think AI. It's not just AI that they're wanting to establish these data centers for. It's technocrats trying to establish the infrastructure for their digital dystopia. Because using the social determinants of health, and you want to do a control thing, here's your social determinants of health for one. Let's look at this. It's education and access, and quality, healthcare access and quality, neighborhood and built environment, social and community contexts, and economic stability. Now, we were looking at Merit for the schools because that's the company that wants to take all the data from the kids and use all of this. I call this the wheel of hell, circle of death. You know what I mean? And you'll notice they're all rainbows, the schools. It doesn't matter what agency, they're all rainbows like this. But they want to use this system right here, this little circle, to do this. Digital infrastructure. Your economic stability of your determinants of health is going to be your ESG, your environmental social governance score. So think Black Mirror. Think of when they were doing like you lower your ratings based on your behavior. They're actually collecting ESG scores in schools right now through a Power School program using AI. There's other programs. Power School is a really popular one. You probably all know that one, where they're tracking your kids' moods every day. And then they use that to corrugate and services and this, that, but it's not, it's really to target certain individuals and this and that, I feel like, for certain services, but it's not just It's not just that. It's if they're, a good feeling or if they would be a victim of something or whatever. Later down the road, you won't be able to get, a bank loan because you told Susie to fuck off one day. You know what I mean? Or where they would put you in a job, or your governance score is this. So these are the jobs that you're allowed to do. Your social, here's where you're allowed to live. Here's where you're allowed to, based on your social, whatever. The economic stability of social stuff is also CBCDs, money. You're going to control the money through a digital framework. Well, you need data centers in order to do the blockchain technology that's required to power and generate digital currency. Okay. They also need it for your digital ID, which is your education and your healthcare. Think about it. It's gonna be tied to your digital ID as well as your ESG score. You know what I mean? That's gonna be tied as well, to your digital ID, and your CBD will be tied to your digital ID. It will be this is everything. That's why it's in the middle. It's everything. All of this will be tied to your digital ID score. And then you also have to think data centers are also going to be used for smart cities, and that's your social determinants of health, neighborhood and built environment, and social and community context. And then all of that will go into your UN digital ID. And digital ID is already here in the state of Ohio. When people are saying like, oh, we're scared of digital ID, they enacted digital ID in the state of Ohio in 2023. They pushed that legislation through during the COVID, which is why you'll see like the real ID thing and why you should not be participating in real ID, because you're giving away a lot of rights in the fine print. But that's why they need these data centers. It's not just for AI. And honestly, AI kind of sucks. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I do a lot of research and I've been trying to use AI to like, narrow stuff down. For one, they don't give references to everything that it states. And then a lot of the times it's wrong. Because when you actually go into the document and you start reading it, you're like, wait, this supercomputer that's supposed to be so smart is wrong. So I want you to think bigger picture there and not just be like, we don't want AI. We don't want your digital dystopia. We don't want technocrats to use technology to control our lives and track in digital surveillance. It's a very real thing. That's what's coming in under the guise of these data centers in Ohio. And we also want to protect our environment for our kids' future. And we're also done with bureaucrats and legislators that are more for businesses than they are for the people. I mean, if these data centers are so good, what the hell happened to Intel? I mean, that seems bust. Weren't they already supposed to be open and they closed down? They closed up shop for a little bit. And then we need to think about these companies and the fact of what are these companies doing for us? Nothing. 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 They're not producing a bunch of jobs. And a lot of people think AI is going to be taking over a lot of jobs. Why are we promoting this? For business? And why the hell can the director of the EPA say I'm going to lower the quality of water because it's good for social and economic purposes, and not give us any reasons on what purposes those are? In what fucking world is that appropriate? Mind my language, but I get infuriated by that. And these data companies aren't being honest with the public right now regarding construction, not even permitting, regarding construction or information. We can look at the town, what town is that? I think I want to say Wilmington or something, that just shot down a data center, and we're not going to play the video because they can't get any information from their government officials or Amazon. Which then leads me into another huge issue, and a huge issue with Lorain County is Lorain County in the state and all across the federal whatever, is that these data companies are coming in to do these data center projects and having our government officials sign NDAs. And I say Lorain County because I've been trying to get the NDA for the new Russia project, the airport project, for over a month now. And they're going to make me sue them. And we will at least not sue them, but take them to common pleas for a records violation under the Ohio Records Act because they like refused to give me the NDA. I want to know what you signed with Ohio NEO and Ohio Jobs. And I have no idea in what fucking world, and I'm using colorful language now because I get so irritated about this, but in what freaking world does a public official have the right to sign an NDA to not discuss with the public what they're using for with public monies on public land in a public position? And if they won't do business because you won't sign the NDA, then go kick rocks, bro. You want to do business with the public. I don't care, private company. You absolutely have to share with the public what you're doing with their fucking money and their fucking land and with people that they elected to represent them. And again, the people elected you to represent them. It shouldn't take me a month and a half and fighting to get an NDA and email communications from these agencies to see what the hell you're doing with our land. And you're violating, I really believe you're violating your oath of office when you sign NDAs with private companies to do public business. You're not giving away trademark secrets. And that's a big thing with these. Oh, it's a trademark secret. Okay. So how many different ways do they build data centers? Because I grew up in the cages. I know what the data centers look like. I would grow up in the there's one building in North Olmsted that my dad used to take us to that we'd run around in. And I didn't realize then that it was a data center, but now I know it was all sit there servers in cages and we'd run around them and stuff. So how many ways is there to set up? How would that be a trademark secret on how they set up how they pollute? It's not. And if these private companies want to do public with the business, then they need to be transparent with the public. It's our money. If they want to pollute our lake because the state of Ohio has spent billions of dollars cleaning up the lake, which is our money, state taxpayer money, then they have to explain to the taxpayers how and why and what they're going to do, and they have to follow the law. One bureaucrat can't oversee the pollution of Lake Erie. The Ohio EPA director can't be like, yeah, I oversee it all. I just allow pollution. That's not a thing. And these companies have problems being transparent with the public about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and everything. And it's really shady that our local public officials that claim transparency, that have done amazing things with transparency in regards to their meetings and stuff previous to the other previous administrations, but then are signing non-disclosure agreements with Ohio Jobs and NEO Water to hide what they're doing. And then when your records request the NDA, give you the runaround and wait months and months and months to do anything to give you the document. And they're going to make me take them to common pleas court for violation of the Records Act to get the freaking documents and emails. That is public information. I don't care about the private companies you all want to do business with. Those private companies want to do business with the public. Therefore, they are required under the Records Act of Ohio, under Sunshine Law, to make available their documents and their communications and their plans. And that's where you run into issues that these companies don't want to do that. They are signing NDAs with public officials to hide from the public what they're doing. Do not trust it. And then the legislator wonders why we all don't trust them. And we're all worried about ourselves too economically with the rates, the energy rates. We don't have the infrastructure to support all these data centers coming in. But I'm going to leave you with a video showing an example of a city right now going through it and the commissioners denying Amazon's approval to move forward due to lack of information. But I'm going to leave you with January 16th. Okay, you have 6 days to comment to the Ohio EPA and call. I've already been doing it, but call your state legislators and tell them to tell the EPA to put a stop to this, because it's very easy. They're required under law to follow this process. Okay. They want to rewrite the process, which they're not allowed to do. And nothing gives them the authority to do so to this process, where they take out the EPA, because they have to follow the general NPDES under the Water Quality Act of the federal EPA. And they just don't want to streamline it here unless the data company doesn't abide by their new permit rules. And then they actually have to follow the law and do the general NPDES permit and the NPDES permit. That's not a fucking thing. Okay. It's not a thing. They're not allowed to do that. And she's not allowed to lower our water quality standards without telling the public why. And we aren't even given the social and economic development reasons on why it's a benefit to us to pollute our lake. The third reason is Lake Erie is a protected water. It is a quality water. She is trying to redefine that under this new permit. She's not allowed to redefine law. That's how easy it is. You guys stay focused. I will be actually, there'll be another episode tonight, just because I wasn't able to get on last night, regarding a video that I posted a couple days ago about Joe Rogan bringing up Josh Dubin bringing up Lorain County again, and our county prosecutor Tony Sillo, and that will be on this evening, which I hope you guys check out. And then my article about that will also drop, and then there's a surprise tomorrow regarding that, but you'll see where I'm going to be. Stay focused. I'm going to leave you guys with a video, and I hope you guys all enjoy your Saturday. And let's stop the bullshit going on here in Ohio, and keep on them. Don't stop. I will, and I hope you do as well. 2 seconds. I want to just put my face off. Okay, here we go. Have a good Saturday, you guys.
Not want it in their community. I'm James Brown.
And I'm
A new at 11, Amazon wants to build a data center in our area, but some people do not want it in their community. I'm James Brown.
And I'm Gabrielle Enright. About 20 minutes from Xenia, Amazon said it needs almost 500 acres in Wilmington. News Center 7's Taylor Robertson joins us at that site that they're talking about.
And Taylor, Wilmington's Planning Commission did not approve that plan tonight.
James, city leaders and residents want more answers from Amazon, and a big concern is how close the center would be to people's homes. So I'm actually standing on the sidewalk right next to someone's house, and you just take a few steps and this is where Amazon wants to build. Now, if we shut off our light, you see how dark it is. But if Amazon builds here, the fear is the facility will light up this neighborhood.
I can tell you from personal experience that a neighbor that put up, and I live in the country, I live on 2.5 acres, and somebody put up a LED light next door, and it changed my life. And I went over and asked them, please, turn it off.
Many key details of which, particularly those involving environmental impacts, noise, generation, and long-term build-out, are still incomplete and unavailable to the public.
For about 2 hours Tuesday night, residents stood at the podium and pleaded with Wilmington's Planning Commission to not approve this site plan. Amazon wants to build off US 68 in Wilmington. People fear the center would negatively impact the environment, cause noise, and hurt their quality of life.
What happens to the water that's being discharged from this thing?
What chemicals will be added to the water?
Wilmington Service Director Michael Crow asked an engineer representing Amazon about the center's diesel generators. Crow wanted to know how many hours a day would they run. The engineer did not have an answer for Crow or most of the other questions people had. Commissioner Brett Dixon expressed concerns about the city recently changing its sound ordinance so people could have backup generators for their homes.
It looks like there's been a planned effort to change our zoning code and our sound ordinances to meet the standards of something we didn't know was going to exist. So I'm not clear how we mitigate that situation, but we did do that.
Planning Commission agreed to table Amazon's request, while it waits for additional information.
I move to table the request for site plan approval to allow additional time for review, coordination, and submission of additional materials.
The Planning Commission said there were some site studies still under review and it wants that information before it makes a decision. The next Planning Commission meeting is next month. We're live in Wilmington. Taylor Robertson, News Center 7.
People only root.
You guys stay focused and I'll see you tonight, but make sure January 16th, before then, you put your comments into the Ohio EPA and you contact your local legislators, your Senate member and your House member, and tell them to rein in the Ohio EPA and not allow them to rewrite current existing Ohio law and to help data centers pollute one of our quality waters here in Ohio. And they're not allowed to reclassify Lake Erie. Can't do it. Not allowed to do it. So EPA director doesn't have that authority. And that you expect answers in regards to the social and economic benefits. They don't even name them, what the benefits are. They just said because someone decided to. That's ridiculous. Stay focused, Ohio, and I will see you on the flip side. Thank you for joining me today on Mean Street. I hope you enjoyed this show. I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider supporting our work and supporting my effort. You can support directly underneath at the Spotify donations, or you can directly give a donation at paypal.me/meanstreetohio. Any donation received will help me continue to provide news to you and everyone else across Ohio and beyond. I love what I do, and I just hope to continue to do it. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me today on Me.